Hey, what is going on, guys? This is the Week 7 edition of the BallzDeep League podcast with your host, Evan Cheney. Today, joined by Joe Kinderman of Kindo's congregation. How are you doing, man?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
And it's good to have you on the show. It's good doing the show. This is our third week now? Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully this has been an enjoyable podcast for you guys so far. And without further ado here, let's just jump into this week's content. We're going to start actually by looking at last week's affair between Kindo's congregation and Breezes, which kind of shocked me how this all went down. It was a 145-90 destruction, honestly, with 1 point from your quarterback. This was kind of a miracle week.
Yeah. I'll start off with, obviously, Jared Goff is just kind of continuing to be a lame duck week in and week out for me this year. Fortunately, he started Mariota, who got benched. So, his quarterback had -2, which certainly helped offset my poor quarterback play. But we'll get to a little bit later in the show too. I'm going to do a little segment here called Kindo's Contenders and Pretenders. But I'll just give you a sneak peek. Bryce was looking like a pretender this past week with some of his some of his play, and certainly his bench didn't really help too much either. So.
Yeah, he got a 0 from Demarcus Robinson. Putting an Auden Tate over Demarcus Robinson wouldn't have done anything.
Yeah.
That would have done it. But your team though, your team just absolutely went off. You had Connor who went off for 30. You had Patriots defense that went off. Prater scored 21, which was, I'm not normally a kicker guy, but got to do what you got to do.
Actually, I was watching a little bit for the Monday night, and I had already surpassed Bryce on Sunday night, so I didn't even need the 21 from the kicker. But hey, I guess we'll take it. So.
You need the big beatdown. This is for the bragging rights. The extra
That's right.
21.
Oh, no doubt. Listen, this one was a complete letdown by Bryce's team, but nonetheless, we'll take this W and continue to move forward. So.
Oh yeah. So let's just look through your team here and let's just talk about things from kind of a rest of season perspective. Jared Goff, we've obviously talked about his issues and what that might present further on down the line. Now, this week, once we get to breaking down your matchup for the week, Jared Goff does certainly have an advantageous spot. So if he is going to bounce back, this would be the spot to do it. But, I don't know, man. He has looked pretty bad.
I'm in agreement with you too, because I'm not necessarily sure what's the future for him. I did do something smart this week, I think. We'll see if it pans out. But I actually picked up Sam Darnold, not off the waivers, but just in free agency. And so, I'm kind of at this point in time for, preparing that Jared Goff may never bounce back. And, I picked up Darnold. Obviously, he had a good game this past week. I'm not going to put too much credibility into 1 week, but he does have a favorable schedule the rest of the way out. So, we could see a couple, plug and play performances from him that end up coming in clutch. And, I'm to your point though, I am hopeful on Jared Goff's bounce back. He's got somewhat of a favorable schedule the rest of the way too. But he may need to he may need to take the bench either next week or potentially even this week and see if he bounces back.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm looking at your running back situation here, just both your starting running backs and your backups. I do like the strategy that you're using here with roster construction, which is having kind of handcuffs in terms of running backs, right? Because you have Connor with Samuels, which is good. It's a very smart move. And they have Sony Michel and James White, right? Very smart move, because if one gets hurt, obviously the other one's going to get opportunities. Now, I am kind of intrigued, and I guess this week it's a little different just because Connor is on his bye week. But starting 2 running backs on the same team, is that a move that you've made the entire season so far, or is this kind of just a recent?
So it's maybe something that we choose to play this week. But if you do look back to last week, I did it as well.
Yeah.
And last week was actually the first time that I had done it this year. I hadn't played both of them before, but I mean, if you look at James White and Sonny Michel's production, I mean, they're ultimately two different players, even though they play for the same team. But I mean, James White's catching, 4, 5, 6 catches out the backfield, and Sonny Michel's really the running guy. I actually got super unlucky that Bolden scored, because one of the two of them should have scored that punch-in touchdown that they had this past week. And either one of them would have had, closer to 20 points if that was the case. But I mean, they had 13, James White had 13 and Sonny Michel had 12 last week. I mean, the production's there, and it was a 30, they scored 35 points, which, it's not like they scored 50, they hung 50 on them. So I'm not sure that, I'm not sure that this might be more than a 1 week strategy if they can put up, 24 to 35 points every single week. I mean, as a team, why not play them? You're putting all your eggs in that basket.
Yeah. I don't want to be a dick or anything. Can you move your camera up just a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That good?
I want to see those beautiful eyes.
Oh, you couldn't see it before?
No, I just saw the mouth. Yeah, you're good. Just a little thing there. Yeah, so we kind of go on down the line here. I really like this receiving group, plus the, obviously the tight end situation for you with Allen Robinson, which there is a questionable quarterback situation there. I mean, Chase Daniel, he's not very good. Mitch Trubisky hasn't been good when he's played. But obviously the amount of volume that Allen Robinson gets is still very good enough to justify starting him right where he is. And then Ridley's obviously good. Kelsey's good. Ridley, I don't know. This week might be an issue. Now that they have Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We can look at that
I'm sure he's gonna play week 1 because he's been out with the back issue, or a fake back issue, I guess, because he didn't really want to play for the Jags. So I guess it's TBD on if he actually plays. We'll kind of see, and we'll have to go from there. But I mean, ultimately, I mean, with us moving, that was another thing about this league this year is we moved to PPR, and so I was looking for the pass catching backs, which has done pretty well throughout the year for guys in this league, and then also just make sure you have that strong wide receiver core. People that get production and targets and catches is kind of the key to what has been somewhat call it a somewhat successful season thus far at 3-3.
Yeah, the only move I'd suggest here, just making in terms of long term, I'm not a big fan of the whole backup kicker idea. I mean, it's kind of, to me, it just seems like a waste of a roster spot. I mean, I would rather have any skill position player or a quarterback.
3 weeks in this podcast, I think we all learned you're not a kicker guy. So
oh no.
Well, I'm with you. I'll definitely take a look at that. I didn't want to. Nugent had 4 this past week, and so he's only had 2 games with the Patriots. I'm sure his production will be there, but I mean, ultimately, it looks like Prater's going to be the guy going forward for me anyway, because his production hasn't decreased at all. So yeah, I mean, to your point, you're probably right. I'll see if I can make a change there and get a skill position player, either another running back or a wide receiver. Now I do have the second waiver pick. You know how waivers works in our league too, where you get kind of bumped to the back after that. So I've been kind of saving that. I haven't used my waiver pick this year so far. So that could be an open swap if I saw the right move,
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even have to be someone you have to get off the waivers. I mean, it could just be a straight up free agent.
Yeah.
Right. Just really anyone with opportunity, targets or carry prospects. Probably better than a kicker, although.
Yeah. It's not a lot out there, but yeah, I mean, we'll take a look.
Yeah, for sure. So let's look at your matchup for the week. You are going up against League Commish Kool Runnings, aka Monroe Clark. Unfortunately, I can't say too many bad things about him because he sends the money via PayPal. So
I'll send you the money. If he doesn't, I'll send it to you, and then you can start saying bad things about him. That's fine.
That's the move. That's the move you got to make.
There you go.
So let's dive in position by position here. He has Mahomes. You have Goff. Mahomes is going up against the Broncos on Thursday night. Goff going up against the Falcons. Honestly, I struggle to project this because Mahomes does tend to struggle against division opponents. I've kind of noticed, and I mean he hasn't played the Broncos yet, so I don't really know the trend there. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about him going to Denver on Thursday night, still dealing with that ankle or the kind of foot ordeal he's been going through. But then I don't know how to look at Jared Goff either, even though he's got a
Yeah,
pretty strong spot.
I mean, so this is one that I don't expect to win this matchup necessarily. It's kind of whoever I put in the matchup here is sort of doing damage control.
Yeah.
I'd like to not see Mahomes have 40 points. If my guy can make up 80-90% of whatever Mahomes makes up, I think we call that a win for this part of the matchup here. I mean, they are going to the Broncos, who it's in Denver. Sure, the weather will be fine, maybe a little chilly, but it'll be. I mean, the Broncos are what 1-4,
Yeah.
so if they get up to a 17-0 lead in the first quarter or the first half even, I wouldn't be surprised if because of the ankle injury maybe they try to run the ball a little bit more and just kind of get through this game. And so maybe Mahomes isn't dropping back 30 times this game. So.
That's quite possibly. So that is right. I mean, there is a chance that Mahomes could get kind of game scripted out of his fantasy upside just through doing well early on. Right. So that's certainly a possibility. But unfortunately, I do have to go with Mahomes here in this
Understood.
spot. So
Damage control again.
yeah. All right. So we go on down here to Todd Gurley v. James White. Well, he's questionable, so let's just assume here Todd Gurley plays, right? I don't know about him here. I don't know if he's going to get the carries because first off, he's hurt. He's still going to feel some kind of pain there, is what it seems like to me, and he's not going to get his full reps, right? He might get Darrell Henderson out of the offense a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal too. If I was Todd Gurley owner, I mean, I'm definitely feeling a little bit concerned here. Just in general, having Todd Gurley this year, I mean, he's the number 18 back in the league right this second from a points perspective. They're trying to get Goff going. Obviously, they're going to they're playing at home. Actually, I'm sorry, they're playing at home versus the Niners. But the Niners have an unbelievable defense. I mean, I think, weeks 1 through 6, we've figured out that the Niners really do have an identity, behind that defense. So I don't know. I got Goff here. No, it's weird. It says Atlanta. They're going to it's
They
Rams
played
versus
they played San Francisco this past week.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Okay, so he didn't play this past. My bad. He didn't play this past. So, yeah, I mean, it looks like they play Atlanta this week at Atlanta. Yeah, it may change my mind a little bit just because Atlanta sucks. But I don't know. Again, to your point, I would just be overall concerned with Todd Gurley and the Rams in general, just because I mean he's not 100% healthy, and they're going to try to get Jared Goff going. I mean, at some point in time, if they want to finish this season strong, they gotta have him snap out of it a little bit.
Yeah. So I mean, if I'm looking at Todd Gurley against a guy like maybe like Sony Michel, I'd actually say Sony Michel in this spot, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna say Sony Michel over Todd Gurley in that situation, and then we can also compare Aaron Jones to James White, who James White's definitely going to get his targets early on in the game. He might. I don't know if he's going to be very active toward the end of the game, right? This might be a Sony Michel end of game type deal. So I think he's better there. Aaron Jones, though, over James White. I do have to say Aaron Jones over James White because, I mean, the Raiders are not too good at a lot of things.
Yeah, they play Oakland at home. I mean, obviously I would go Aaron Jones too. I think the real question is, kind of back to my strategy is when you take Todd Gurley plus Aaron Jones, what does that net to for Sony Michel plus James White?
Yeah.
because I'm really going to, it's nice if it's an and strategy where it's James White and Sonny Michel that put up numbers, but it's really it's really more of a safety play. It's like I know one of them is going to produce. So is that 20 to 25 points that one of them could have? Is that enough to sort of offset the Todd Gurley, Aaron Jones? If you look at it, I mean, last week's kind of a tough proxy, because Gurley didn't play at all, but I mean, Jones only had 7 points. I mean, you take the 48 out that he had 2 weeks ago, he's probably averaging somewhere around 15 points for the year per game. And, if you get Gurley's, again, kind of take out last week and do his average, I mean, he had, 125 point game, and he had 1 4-point game. You kind of throw those two out, you're looking at 16 points. I mean, the collective together is, if Sonny Michel plus James White is greater than 30 points, then, we win the running back game,
Yeah. So, I mean, there is definitely a chance. It just depends on, there's just a lot of variance and just a very wide range of outcomes as to what can happen with Todd Gurley.
I would say on my team too, I mean, if I had to just rate my team, I mean, running back is definitely, it's sort of panned out so far this season. So, because of this strategy, but I don't have necessarily, I mean, I consider James Conner an elite back. He obviously is on bye this week. But, I mean, you're not talking about Zeke or CMC or, even Saquon when he's healthy. So I would say I'm probably in the sort of the middle of the pack, but I've got a good core of like a couple middle guys, So
yeah. So I mean, as I look at your team here, the kind of the top half, we're looking at quarterback, running back. Personally, I see you at a slight disadvantage. However, when we go down, when we look at the flex, the wide receiver, and the tight end position, I think you have more so an advantage here, right? So
yeah, definitely.
Derrick Henry versus Allen Robinson is going to be very close. A very slight edge to Derrick Henry, but that's only because of the quarterback in Chicago.
I don't know. I mean, well, in Chicago or in Tennessee?
Or well, no, for Chicago. Oh, because of I have to sorry, I have to downgrade Allen Robinson just a little bit because of what's going on there.
I guess my thing is, I'm looking at Derrick Henry. I was kind of looking at the other side. I mean, there is some concern about the quarterback in Chicago, but I think, if there's a guy that's going to get targets, at least it's, Allen Robinson's going to get the targets. So I'm hopeful on that front. Yeah. I think I'm looking at Derrick Henry thinking to myself, he goes to, they play the Chargers at home. The Chargers defense is sort of suspect, but it's probably not like my Miami Dolphins, by the way. So, so, I mean, they got a decent run defense. I'm feeling like Derrick Henry could get a little shut down this week just because, they may stack the box in order to just stop him because they got Ryan Tannehill starting.
Yeah, no, I see that. Again, I call this really close in terms of a projected point perspective. But I would say maybe it's not even a full point between Henry and Robinson for me. It might be half at most, right? And obviously that comes with a huge range of fluctuation that can occur. Right, so we can go down here. We can look at T.Y. Hilton against Thielen. This is another really close one. The Vikings are finally throwing the ball again, and that gives Thielen his fantasy opportunities finally. Right. Yeah. But at the same time,
I mean,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say. I mean, I think I was gonna say it before you said it, but I mean, there's just such a wide variety of guys that could get the ball on a game-to-game basis for the Vikings, and you got Diggs that had 3 touchdowns last week. Thielen's production was good. I mean, could it easily be Thielen with 3 touchdowns this week? Maybe. Yeah. You got Dalvin Cook that's going to get his share too. So, I mean, it's just it seems like there's a lot of mouths to feed, and it seems like Cousins, had one good game. I don't know if he's going to continue this kind of production for, weeks going forward. I mean, I do feel like the matchup, is probably an okay matchup. I would say, with T.Y. Hilton against Houston, it would probably, I don't know, it's probably a neutral matchup situation where, that they're both kind of okay matchups. They're not, I wouldn't call it a great matchup for T.Y. Hilton or for Thielen.
Mhm.
I actually might give myself, Thielen a little bit of the edge on the matchup. I don't know if you agree, but
Yeah. I I have a take there, but like the Houston defense has been, other than last week where they kind of showed up, they've been pretty bad, right?
yeah,
Bradley Roby, who's supposed to be the number one corner there in Houston, is right now one of Pro Football Focus's worst graded, right?
yeah,
So I do really like T.Y. Hilton's matchup. I'm just
yeah,
not sure where the target numbers are going to be at because his target numbers tend to fluctuate a lot more than I'm comfortable with in say, rostering someone for a head-to-head matchup.
and I mean, the only other thing I would say about him too is he isn't 100%. I
Yeah.
don't know if he's ever 100% though. He's one of those guys that I feel like every year in fantasy is always questionable for at least half the season. So, I mean, I don't know if you bring that into play. I think to your point, we've said at the top four guys, slight disadvantage. This one's probably a wash.
Yeah.
So, if we go to if we continue on down to the next one, I mean, you got Tyrell Williams, who's banged up too.
Oh, I have Ridley by far over Tyrell Williams, right? Because Tyrell Williams has to face the best corner in football right now, which is
Yeah,
Jair Alexander,
yeah,
right? So I'm not at all a fan of Tyrell Williams this week. I know he gets volume, but he's just going to get shut down. So Calvin Ridley by a mile there. And
yeah,
then I'd say the same thing for Travis Kelce, which is a great leverage play, by the way, over Darren Waller. And obviously, if Mahomes throws something to Kelce, it does cancel out a lot of Mahomes's production. So that's definitely a
for
positive for
sure.
you
Yeah,
there.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. And again, certainly in a game that they're going to want to try to score and sort of score quick and just kind of get up in my mind.
Oh, we lose you there?
Our work here. I mean, Kelsey numbers are just so solid. I mean, he's had like every game he's had 8, 9, 10 targets. I think the last game he had 6, but it was just kind of that was like an anomaly game there. So I mean, he's going to get 8 to 10 targets. He's only scored once. He's due for like a 2-touchdown Thursday night football game. Might be a bold call, but when it happens, you can shoot me a text. So
I will. So yeah, I think you do have the advantage there. And then defense, these are both very solid spots for defense this week. Patriots and 49ers, they both get really good matchups. I would have to say Patriots just because we know what they can do. Like the defense, special teams, we know what they can do.
yeah.
They probably have performed a little over their heads, but at the same time, they're going to get a ton of pressure in this game, force turnovers and then get sacks.
I mean, number one fantasy defense and yeah, number one the fantasy defense. So I
Yeah.
mean, you gotta give them the hot hand there, and yeah, I mean, while the Washington 49ers match.
May have lost you there for
Could
a
be
bit.
yeah. Did you hear me?
Yeah, no, I got most of that in there. It's just a little bit of cutoff at the end.
Okay. Yeah.
And then kicker is
10
fairly
points.
random. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Is it hard to hear? Let me just make sure. I think
The signal's
everything's
just a little wonky is
yeah.
all. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of your matchup. That's kind of your matchup there. I it's hard for me to pick a winner, honestly, because I know ESPN has this game projected to like 14 points apart or something, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than that.
I mean, there's a lot of variables in this one. So I did a little homework on this one too. Just for the whole league here. So the average points scored in the first 6 weeks is 117 points per team.
Mm-hmm.
So and the winners are kind of in that 125, 130 range is where the average is per week. So if you can get to 125, 130 points, for the week, you got a pretty good chance at winning for the week. It's got him at 131 and me at 117. So to be honest with you, I mean, the way I got this panned out right now is, I think my guys have had a more solid season so far, just from a every single game perspective. So I've got, every single game. I've had 2 low games where I had 102 points and 101 point. Every other game besides those 2, I've scored over 130 points. So I'm going, 4 out of 6 weeks so far, scored over 125 points. Can we make it 5 for 7? It sounds like it. Conversely, on his team, I mean, he's had last week was 72 points, so it's kind of a really tough week there, and he's also had a 95 in there, and he's had a 120 in there. So he's had actually 3 weeks that fall below that 125 and up points average that you kind of got to score there. I mean, again, if you go 3 for 6, so far in 6 weeks, and I'm 4 for 6, I'm gonna give myself the advantage here that I'm gonna score 125, and if he scores 150, though, he's definitely got the opportunity to score 150 and 160, which I've only put up 151. So.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's wrap this.
I'm gonna win this week.
Yeah.
If there's any I'm just making sure everyone sees this too, because that is here. So
get that as close as you can.
Too, but I just want to let you know that I am going to win this week. If there was any confusion there, Monroe, you're going down this week.
All right, let's close this out with your hot takes here. Let's hear those contenders and pretenders.
Yeah, so we were gonna do a little contenders and pretenders this week. Kindo's contenders and pretenders. So I just kind of wanted to go through every single team, and 6 weeks through the year right now, who's a contender in my mind, who's a pretender. So we'll start at the top. We'll just go in the order of the standings. So DMV Black Ravens, 5-1, scored 762 points so far this year. Teams have put up some points against him. I mean, unfortunately, I think Omar's the real deal, man. I mean, he may be the real deal. So I'm going to go with Omar's definitely contender, and as a 2-time champion too. He's up here. Go to Wake and Bake. So Wake and Bake is number 2 here, 4-2, 743 points for. He's on a 2-game winning streak. He's made some moves, hasn't made a ton of moves. Scores points. He's actually had some points go against him too. I think, I hate to say it, but I think Wake and Bake's a contender here also. I mean, and we talk a lot about too in the league. If you get to 7 games, you're pretty much in there. So I mean, he Wake and Bake seems like they're a contender as well. Go to Kool Runnings next. So Kool Runnings also 4-2. Scored 736 points so far. This is kind of the middle of the pack amount of points scored. And again, I kind of talked about it earlier. He had 3 good games of scoring. He's got 3 bad games of scoring. So, I mean, personally, I think does Monroe's team have what it takes to get to the playoffs? Yes. Do I put him in a contender for the title? The bucket right this second, I'm going to go with no. I'm gonna go with Monroe's team is if there's I guess I needed a third bucket here because there are some definite pretenders in this league.
You got to call them out.
Probably the middle of the pack,
Yeah, you gotta call them out though.
Oh, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, Monroe's not winning the championship this year. There we go.
That's a take.
We'll move to the next one. So Omar's got a chance, and Wake and Bake actually I think has a chance to get to the championship. All right, so the next one we'll go to is we're going to go to Jim T. Jim T's next. This one's a tough one. So Jim T, 4-2 also, scored 708 points. He hasn't really had a lot of teams score against him though. So he's kind of limped into this 4-2 spot here. I was just pulling up his team real quick to just refresh my memory here, but Yeah, he's got somewhat of a solid team. It kind of reminds me of my team where, is kind of a solid core. I would definitely say Jim T's team. Jim T's a contender. He's got a chance to. He's got a chance. If all of his guys sort of fire on all cylinders here, he's got a chance for sure. JT off constantly. So now we get down to some of the 3 and 2s, and I guess somehow in this stupid league we still have ties. I cannot. You hate kickers. There's nothing more that I hate than a tie in fantasy football. So Monroe,
honestly, I've never even seen it.
Like, yeah, Monroe, if you're listening to this, like, I need you to fix that next year. Like, I don't know if anyone needs to even vote on that. Ties are the dumbest thing in fantasy football ever. Anyway, now I got off my chest. Off constantly, 3, 2, and 1. Probably should be 4 and 2 up in that bucket there. It's not gonna be a lot of fun for a lot of the guys to hear this one, but I think JT's team is a contender too. I think personally, I mean, he's got some good pieces there, and I go back to the average scoring too. I'm a big, like, kind of, if you can hold serve and just kind of be on your average, it'll be good. But I mean, he's got a couple games where he's 158, 153, 134, 138. So I mean, there's only been 1 or 2 games that he's been that have been low scoring games. Did he get scored on one of the weeks, and that kind of threw him off? Probably. So JT is definitely a contender in my mind to win the whole thing. So we'll go next to next is myself. We don't need to talk about this. This will be really simple and easy. I'm going to win this week. I'm going to get to 4 and 3. And then I'll have 3 wins left to go. What I would call myself a contender. I'm going to be there as well. I can't imagine that anyone in this group would think I would call myself anything different. So I won't spend a lot of time there. Now we go down into F&A. So this is where it gets a little dicey because you got F&A here, 3 and 3 team. Second year guy here. I got a sneaky suspicion here that Mr. Cotton's going to hit that sophomore slump towards the back half of the season here. Just going to go out on a limb. I think he missed the playoffs. I think his team's just okay. I'm going with Pretender here. Pretender in the middle of the pack right now. TG, Taylor Gang. So here's my hot take on Blake's team. And I've played fantasy football with Blake for, I don't know, probably 10 years now. And I always seem to think to myself the same thing about Blake every year in fantasy football. And we've had this conversation a million times, by the way, too. And sometimes Blake psychs himself out and makes moves that are just unnecessary. And so, like, he's always trying to do a trade. He's always trying to do a wheel and deal. Like, sometimes you just got to let it ride, my man. But, like, I'll give you an example. So week 1, he took an L to give me the ring, right? He got unlucky that week, and Dak went off for 41 points. So since then, he won 3 straight. And so he's 3 and 1 after that. And it's like, all right, things are starting to click, starting to fire on all cylinders. And then he just makes this big trade now this week, and he's changing up the pieces. This week, last week, he's changing up a little bit, and now he's on a two game losing streak, and it's just like you got a 3 game winning streak. Like, ride the hot hand, like, keep going. Anyway, make a long story short here, I think Blake's draft strategy, sort of actually worked out for him. I mean, Kerryon Johnson was at the pick that he took him. We were all a little bit in shock. But I think Melvin Gordon's obviously not paying out as he thought, and I'm not sure that I'm not sure. I'm going to call him a contender just because Zeke and Kerryon is pretty forceful group there, so he may pull it off. But he's made 22 moves, which is only second to Maurice, which I don't know why Maurice is making so many moves. But and I'm not sure what Maurice's moves are, by the way, because none of them are relevant. But he's made 22 different moves, so I'd pump the brakes there a little bit, my man. But I call him a contender. So, And I think we got 6 that make the that make the playoffs. So
Yeah.
we're at 5, or we're at 6 contenders at this point. So now we go through 9 through 12, and I think you know where I'm going with this here. If only 6 make the playoffs, we're going to start Breeze nuts here. So Breeze
Give me
nuts
1
is
second.
yeah, good.
Are you good?
Yeah, so Breeze nuts real quick. Definitely pretender. 3 games under 100 points. He's not making the playoffs. We'll go to SuH Girls. Again, for some reason, SuH Girls has made 28 roster moves. I have no clue what he's picking up or dropping. Regardless, none of it is relevant. And he's 2-4 and has put up a league low 600 points for. Don't even forget about the points against for a second. SuH Girls is obsolete at this point. Buffalo expectations. Matt just made an intriguing trade. We'll see if it pans out. He just traded Alvin Kamara, which as part of the deal committee, I was happy to see us kind of go through that process. I think reviewing that trade, I think we got to a good place on that one. So shout out to the deal review committee. But I still don't think it'll be enough. I think we'll see if the Alvin Kamara thing pans out for him. He is a little bit banged up, so it might end up being a good trade, but I don't know at 1-4 if it's 1-4-1. Sorry, again, it's idiotic ties. If he'll be able to climb back, so I'm calling him a pretender there. And then we get to the final individual on our roster here, GDR. I think we need a 4th bucket because I don't even have him as a pretender. This is an absolutely miserable fantasy football team. And
it really is.
I'm unsure. I mean, we are 5 straight losses, 15 moves. I mean, the second least or third least amount of points in the league at 619 fantasy points. The dude just doesn't like to score every single week. Listen, man, I think thanks for your donation this year because this is you ain't coming back from this one, my friend. I mean, yeah, he's only scored over 125 points one time. Chat, I'm not only giving you the pretender, but I'm giving you the toilet too.
Jeez. Yeah, that's it's a pretty rough team they have over there.
Jesus.
So
try harder next time.
I seriously buy one of the drafting packages. I don't know. Yeah, seriously. All right, that'll do it for the interview portion of the Week 7 BallzDeep podcast. Thank you, Joe, for joining me this week. And next week, we will have someone else. All right. Take care.
Thanks, man.